Welcome to the Dr. DJ Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. DJ. I am here with the Dr. DJ Podcast, sponsored by LGBG, Let God Be God. And I am here with another special guest, someone that has really kind of been a cement in my life. We are talking about Dr. Mallery, Dr. Michael Mallery. I'm so educated. Guest speaker extraordinaire, and someone that stood in the fire with me during our treacherous journey through the PhD. Also a brother to Phi Beta Sigma.
That's part. That part
There we go.
Right there. Go Mob, for sure.
There we go. And so today's a great episode. Again, this is the Dr. DJ Podcast, unscripted dialogue, and this conversation has been long overdue. You will get the opportunity to kind of see some of the conversations that no one else gets to be privy to. And I appreciate you coming today, man.
No, brother, I'm glad to be here, brother.
Throw it out.
Glad to be here, brother. So Dr. DJ, where we taking this?
So before we get out, I want to make sure the audience understands what you do, what you've been doing. So obviously I kind of gave the nuts and bolts. Obviously you got the PhD. We've been through the same treacherous journey, and how you've navigated the space. And just kind of just talk about the journey. I don't want.
No doubt. So definitely a pleasure to be on the podcast. Been a very long time coming. So originally from the great state of Louisiana, not so great state, but as I always like to say, let's le bon temps rouler, let the good times roll. And so I migrated from the South up to the East Coast, pretty much on the speaker journey, right? So I built a company in college. I'm so educated. You have the purpose, you have the passion, you have the possibilities, and I wanted to just navigate space and place. So got on a bunch of different speaking circuits, spoke at the University of Connecticut. They were like, oh my God, who's this guy from the South, has some different energy, different swag. We want to bring him up to speak again. Brought me up to speak. I did my thing on my most seminal I'm So Educated workshop, was called Respect the Swag, Students with Academic Goals. And then I landed at the University of Connecticut, and it was a game changer. And so for me, it's been a hell of a journey because being ambitious, being an individual that just loves to consider himself to be a true scholar activist, that journey for me led me to the treacherous journey of a PhD. And the PhD journey, I always say, it took me to the depths of my soul to meet the man I was destined to be. That unfortunately yet fortunately changed everything, you know. And this is where I was able to meet ghosts and build the brotherhood, not just from the amazing organization Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, but also just this love, the inquisitive nature of wanting to have deep dialogue and conversations, not just around sports, politics, pop culture, you name it. And that was us being able to, show love to each other in a way that, as two black men navigating the world, navigating spaces that often don't look like us, white spaces, and to still come up and say, at the end of the day, we belong here. Not only do we belong here, we can dominate here, and then we can change the game and bring other people up. And so that's just a little bit about the journey, and I'm just looking forward, bro, to this conversation.
You probably would meet the only person that talks just as fast as I do.
Yeah, no doubt.
You the only person that do the same thing that we do.
You know it.
I appreciate you being here, and obviously you know that. So a large portion of our PhD journey were a lot of heart-to-heart conversations. You the brother. You my brother. I think you did a great job of actually carrying in many ways of just kind of like getting through the process, telling the story, being transparent, not like being a gatekeeper of information. And so and we have this large passion around college athletics and black males.
This is very true. And all of the exploitation that comes with college athletes and black males historically. And so I think that love for sports, that we both were athletes, I would say DJ was definitely a better athlete in the context of his sport. He had a further career. But nonetheless, when you grow up in our cities, whether it's from Louisiana, whether you're from Connecticut, any borough in New York, so forth and so on, you get socialized to these different sports. Typically in our community is basketball, football, and track, with a higher emphasis on basketball and football. And for whatever reason, you start to wonder, dang, why is it that we all just have this love? And you think that, maybe we're more gifted, maybe we're more talented, and then you you don't realize until later on in life is, oh snap, we're on this conveyor belt. And they just been feeding us this kind of intoxified poison that was under the guise of, yo, you're an athlete. You're so fast, DJ. I saw you when you were 8 and you were faster than everyone. And now your whole identity should be surrounded by playing football. You're like, damn, but what if I want to be a thinker? What if I want to be a mathematician? What if I want to be both? But you just told me my future and a million other DJs across the world, but you never informed me that there was only 60 slots or 100 slots. And now I'm competing like this, like I'm in a gladiator movie. And then we see the harm that's done, and brothers like us meet very few and far-fetched, a 1% of a 1% to get PhDs, but then we see 98 to 99% get destroyed by this conveyor belt in this macro level system, which is black college athletes or just athletics in general, to where you have the high for a moment and then you realize it fed into nowhere. So what's your thoughts, bro? What's your thoughts, man?
You know, I didn't ask the question.
You didn't ask the question. You're right. You're right.
So that's why I know you already loaded. So you already loaded. So I would say that one thing that I want to kind of talk with you about is about the landscape.
Yes.
So we've already laid it clean that we understand that the NCAA operates in a particular way that puts us on the margins, or NCAA says that athletics is the front porch of institutions. And so that the question is, how do we get into that house? And so these new opportunities that are being created through NIL, new opportunities that are being created in terms of individuals having opportunities to brand themselves, either in the high school space, it's like understanding what that is. And I kind of really want to talk about it in two ways, because we bring up this reality of this large conveyor belt and conglomerate that's happening that also does a good job of reducing the things that we appreciate, which when we met, that intellectual jungle, that intellectual gymnastics with those that are sapiosexual, being intellectually aroused by this conversation around education. And so this is no longer part of the conversation. And so I can operate in kind of a very behemoth way and operate within this athletic industry to one maximize or monetize myself. But also the larger question is then what is this institution now?
For sure. Well, so let me just start off and say that the NCAA created one hell of a cartel, and they profited from the cartel, and it's real. And once again, objectively, in a free market economy, and I'm not an economist by trade, but when you understand and you deal with business in so many different ways, you understand the tweets, right? And so they created one hell of a cartel, big money, and they built their industry, which everything, right? You have a gas industry, you have supply chain and logistics as an industry, you have higher ed as an industry, and the NCAA created an industry around the exploitation of premier athletes that just so happen in two particular sports were black and brown males. Now, obviously, there are exceptions of white individuals, Doug Flutie's and others that got exploited as well, but an industry that was driven and highly profitized by elite black male athletes. If we go back into golden ages, super Negroes, right? And the amount of revenue and capital that was generated and created, and buildings on these institutions that was built, and donations that were created, and attendance, admissions that were submitted because of this lure of these powerhouses, to then, in our world, to then see what has happened from the trickle-down effect, to say that up until recent, they were not compensated for their blood, sweat, and exploitation.
True.
When in every other segment of the pie, people were compensated. You brought in $5 million this year, but I gave you a $40,000 scholarship in travel. You should be grateful. I mean, that's a hell of a deal that you can sell to millions of people worldwide to say, well, you should just be happy, Ghost, with your scholarship. And you got
Should be satisfied.
You should be satisfied. Yeah, I know, but my jersey is in the bookstore. And like 25 people have my jersey on. I want a piece of that. Oh, you mean I'm gonna lose my scholarship? Because I want a piece of what's mine that y'all didn't tell me was mine, but you are advertising that as mine, and you are profiting off of what's mine. But I'm grateful that I got some Nike gear.
And I think you about to take me back. So now we're back in the lab and having these conversations. So I think as we've worked through this, that I've arrived at a place that, like, whether it's NIL, whether it's the O'Bannon case, it's important conversations around how does the market look at me? Mm-hmm. And I gotta be honest. So this idea of exploitation actually existing, to some degree, I thought that what we did on the field was a fair opportunity that I would be able to vibe for these opportunities and be able to monetize myself. Mm-hmm. But then I realized that the market itself doesn't exist in that particular way. And so seeing that jersey, or recognizing that I should be what we now consider, I consider a welfare mentality.
Yes, for sure.
So and I write specifically about this idea of this tokenized welfare mentality of that the institution and the market would say, just be grateful that I gave you a scholarship to be appreciative of being in this particular house.
Because I have all your secrets.
Not even my secrets, mm-hmm. but the fact of the matter is, like, I gave you something because I looked at you as a way, like, I'm here in operating in this kind of like operating with your escapism. Mm-hmm. And I start there before we get into the deep, because I know for a fact, and it's sometimes it's still a struggle for me to hear athletes talk about sport as this gateway.
Yeah, this gateway. It's a gateway drug, and we know about what drugs do when you consume it enough, right? And so it is a gateway drug. But then when you think about, you mentioned about the idea of a market. Well, if you come from a poor educational system that doesn't teach you what a market is, and that you're a part of the market, and that you have marketplace value, you will then see this thing as a gateway, as an opportunity for a better life. And you hear it, oh my gosh, this is a gateway to college. This is a gateway to scholarship. This is a gateway. It's a gateway. And then when you peel back the layers of the gateway, you're like, oh my gosh. Well, why is it that college internships in most cases start at a 3.0, but the eligibility is 2.5? So it's a gateway to what? Why is it that those schools have more television options and we streaming on ESPN3? Or we streaming on YouTube? Or we not streaming at all? But I wanted to major in engineering, DJ, but the coach said I only could major in communications or political science. Damn, because they didn't teach me about academic clustering, that they wasn't going to change the academic schedule for me, that I would have to change my academic promise for them. But the institution gave me a gateway. And so now I'm in the gateway and I have to conform to the gateway. And the gateway seems good and it seems amazing. And then it's like, holy crap, I don't know nothing. And damn, DJ is coming back at me as a freshman. And then there's another DJ coming. But the gateway told me what was real and that it was tangible and that I had promise.
So this is where I think where we do so well at. And we do very well at this because part of the I'm so educated and the intellectual boundary is that I see young athletes that experience sport not just as a pathway that someone told them, but that they actually have this self-fulfilling prophecy that this is where they are supposed to be. They are supposed to operate within this athletic or entertainment framework. And that is the only option in what they have, like, as an offering to the space.
Gateway drugs, man.
And I think it becomes important where we have this conversation as previous athletes of having this conversation, one, at the level with the individuals that we work with about having critical conversations around you can do both.
Yes.
You can do both.
Yes.
Because there is a market that will not advertise this duality that we naturally operate in. Because one thing I think about, and like they would say, like, how do certain individuals navigate through the space? Mm-hmm. Well, certain individuals operate through the space, and we operate through the space where it's like, I see it in both. I've seen it in both lanes. Mm-hmm. Now, I could have just operated and say, hey, you know what? This school's going to get me the best offer. It's going to get me to the league to get whatever money and do whatever as the end goal. Because that's really that's the formula. Mm-hmm. But where we are right now, market appeal, social media, I think it's grown in particular ways that it's sometimes, even to some degree, it's still exceeding our understanding of how nefarious it can actually be.
For sure, yep.
And it's outside of the vision of those that are actually coming in.
No, for sure.
So their ability to understand, or their ability to kind of see the trajectory of working with their parents, and their parents, whether their parents were athletes or not, understanding what this college landscape is, understanding what the school is going to do with you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And considering this possibility, because what I try to focus on is, like, what I always write about is like NIL as this kind of larger conversation, as a reparation claim gone mm-hmm. wrong, mm-hmm. within the context of how we have conversations around the exploitation and the original premise of why folks should have been paid.
1,000%.
Because the space has now created a new marketplace that I don't really see us like collectively benefiting from.
No, you're 1,000%. And so you said something that I think is interestingly phrased, but I'm going to, work here. You said NIL is a
reparations claim gone wrong. That's the article. That's what I'm writing.
But it is reparations necessary because it's still a free market economy. And in an economy, even though it has gone wrong, if Nike, if a podcast, if a beverage company, if anyone wants to say, I see what you're doing, you have this image that I value, and I believe that you can drive any measure of sales, or let alone, I just like the social capital that you bring, you're worth whatever I'm willing on paying for it and what you're willing on accepting. And so the NCAA did an amazing sweep move, which is the back door, as Hamilton would say, the room where it happens. And they say, well, you know what? Our cartel is so strong, we need to create another level to make the jungle that much more crazy, but we can still protect the institution within itself. But I still think at the end of the day, if these people want to go buy Lamborghinis, if they want to go buy $250,000 of fruit snacks, if they can just get a Subway sandwich for free, they're owed that because we're in a free market economy. And so to sit here and say that I agree, it probably wouldn't be the one you and I would have set up for athletes. But nonetheless, I think it's an amazing claim, just like I think the portal is an amazing claim. I don't care. Institutions say I came in, and if my joint was for 10 months, I gave you the best I could for 10 months. If I don't see the opportunity or the window of opportunity for me, guess what? I'm going to go from a University of Connecticut, and now I'm going to go down to a Michigan. Or I'm going to go from a Michigan, and I'm going to go to a Colorado. Because all of the coaches, all of the staff, all of the faculty, all of the professors, all of the interns can do the exact same thing. But now you're saying, but we invested so much more in you. Not much more than what paying college students with tuition have invested, and they can still go about their business. And so if we're looking at it from a quid pro quo, so the millions of dollars that we're stifling, at least NIL is not a great equalizer, but it's an opportunity to say, you can't bench me because I had some trading collectible cards that Ghost wanted to pay me because it was something I had in my shoebox. And now you're going to take my love of the game or the passion and the 10,000 hours I put into the craft. And so I just wanted to just say that.
No. You solid. But I always wanted to ask this question. And so we see the landscape right now with NIL creating a space where the new agreement is creating or suggesting that they would love to acquire exclusive ownership of an individual's name, image, and likeness, right? But I have to go back to so I say reparations, the original premise. When you signed that letter of intent, what was actually in that contract that didn't allow you, besides the suggestion, besides this kind of conversation around amateurism, for you to own my ability to monetize myself? And I'm honestly, as I think about it in our conversation, I probably never propped this question up. Like, what was in there that suggested that individuals were contractually obligated by signing this particular letter of intent that disallowed this? Because honestly, I would suggest that if a member institution is now going to vacate your NIL opportunity with third parties and saying that I want to own your exclusive rights, then how are we not back in the same system? Because it seems more confusing. For me, it seems more confusing because the reality is that it just duplicated itself. You created a market to test a market in an NIL system and allowing individuals to navigate the marketplace through NIL and allowing individuals to siphon money from wherever they want and create brand deals with individuals. And now you want to buy their exclusive rights, which is no different than them actually walking back into the original system that they're in.
No, for sure. But information changes situation, and mass confusion and hysteria provides opportunity for people to rewrite, as we do within research methodology. And we have a control group and a test group, and you let it play out a little bit. Let me get this data. Let me get, okay, I see what happened. Okay, he can't be driving a better car than the president of the university. Okay. Now I get to go to broad media, sprinkle some fairy dust. Wow, what you're saying is, now how do we create a new system? Now, a new system to the new system that we created. And before they figure out what the new system is almost akin to a 360 deal. And now I get to control what it is that you are actually signing. But I also now get to control your representation, and your representation may say, yo, Ghost, just go ahead, sign that, man. So if we sign in terms and conditions to be on Instagram and ain't reading that, why would a top athlete who I give a little bit of something to now that I didn't figure out the new system, that now I can control it in a particular way to say, now if you don't do what I tell you to do, or if you leave the way in which you think you're going to leave, you forfeit all of these dynamics. But guess what? I never allowed you to read it or comprehend it, or use pejoratives in language and pseudonyms and all of these other type of things that you're like, well, shit, I'm starving, man. I just want a little something or something. That now you actually gave away your freedom to the gateway drug that held you on a high. And we know once the high happens, what happens? You crash. But then they could say, but no, it wasn't you, Ghost. It's the mere fact that this year they just needed somebody with bigger hands and somebody 4 inches taller than you. That was the only reason why.
2 seconds faster?
2 seconds faster. You know? But it further goes back to, with all of what you're stating, is the messed up education system. And if you are not able to be a critical thinker, if you're not able to process information, if you don't know basic financial literacy, forget the pro. If you just don't understand, the currency of my potential GPA can provide me access to these sports opportunities. These sports opportunities can potentially provide me a $50,000 scholarship. A $50,000 scholarship over 4 years is $200,000, 6.8% interest. Damn, I don't have to pay a lot of money back. At a bare minimum, that's a good deal that I can live with. But if you don't understand that, and it's like, I'm providing you with an opportunity to do X, Y, and Z, sign here, and it's going to go to the pros, when we know that it is physically impossible, let alone the politics associated with that, then now they can say, I'm going to push you.
It's not that hard to get there, though.
Huh?
Not that hard to get there, though.
Very hard to get there. You have to understand information. You have a different level of insight of information, but it's a lot harder if you have 800,000 people still lobbying for 100 slots. And we're going to have some quid pro quos, donors, big donors, kids who just gonna slide up in there because you need practice players, right? And so, but also too, once again, when it comes to information, you don't know. And so that's where it happens. So now you're like, damn, as an athlete, I got the opportunity, even though my coach is running me 50, 60 hours a week, I need to leave here with something, because if I don't leave here with something, then now I'm going to be potentially in a space and place to where I'm beholden to a drug that I have no access to, but I was stripped of skills that could potentially have allowed me, as I like to deem myself as the ultimate edupreneur. How do you leverage your education and your entrepreneurship to then better be a coach, to build a business, to build a X, Y, and Z that can make this whole journey worth it, versus, which is a term that we both know, people get lost to athletic identity foreclosure. And then that ends up being 10, 15 years of messed up space and place before they figure out, damn, I probably should do something with my life. And
so for me and you, shout out to Taj. He not here, but he here. Re-engineering, and the things that I think we've done are re-engineering the athletic engine around the folks that we care about and love, and that we mentor with, because providing the blueprint of the space becomes paramount. So I could name some names of some guys that right now are coming out of high school and they trying to find the AAU, trying to find the right prep school. Understanding the landscape and the business that you are in becomes important, that you are also, like I tell student athletes, manage your talent as if it's an investment.
1,000%.
Understand that this is the business that you are in. And if you do not see yourself in this particular way, someone else will use you as their business.
1,000%. But that's where, to your point of us giving the blueprint, being collectivists, and this is what we in DJ share, we are collectivists, right? We have, so many individuals. I swear I want to write a book one day called Death to the Black One, right? The one black person that made it out the hood, the one black person that made it to the pros, the one black person versus the many of us who can navigate space and place and be examples of how me and you navigated, still with our ebbs and flows, our trials. And I think that unfortunate reality, though, it's with the information. So to your point of what does a business model look like? Damn, if I now go to the University of Connecticut, all right, bet. So it's 25,000 people, it's alums all across the country, globally across the world. So I'm an athlete now. Somebody needs to tell me, dang, all right, I might have access, what I think, to this scholarship, this facilities, food, muscle milk, but I actually have access to, I can go have a meeting with the president of the university because I have that type of cachet.
Muscle milk.
Right? I can have access to the alumni donor base and say, hey, what do you do? So I noticed that you own this company. I noticed that you work for a Big Four accounting firm. I noticed that you have your own business. Yes, I'm an athlete, and I appreciate the fact that you buy and pay for season tickets, but I kind of want to learn more about this, that, and the third. But many of our athletes don't know or are not given the opportunity often to really tap into the donor base from a business perspective that could be lucrative to them in many ways.
So I push on that, because one of my pushes on that is the representative brand in terms of who athletic departments want to prop up as individuals that they want to introduce to donors.
Sure.
Versus saying your most talented athlete, to some degree, depending on how he operates, this is not someone you actually bring around, or you bring around in a particular way to kind of highlight this kind of Boobie Miles moment of like showing off your horse.
Yes, but what I'm saying is what you and I as collectivists are. We need the quote unquote workhorse, or we need the super Negro, or we need the talented 10th to know that before they even get there. Never mind what you heard. I'll be a beast in between the lines. I'll be a beast on the court. But I'm leaving here, as the great Denzel Washington said, I'm leaving here with something. And for them to get to the space and not know that they should be leaving here with something.
Banger.
Then that space right there, honestly, is on the, well, we felt them in a collectivist manifesto.
So here's the banger. Here's the banger, and I've experienced this in a particular way. The banger is when you are trying to navigate the space, and this is where talent and market appeal and talent kind of meet at that particular time, because there is always someone they're thinking about replacing you with.
1,000%.
And the market has changed so significantly in the ways of saying you instead of just waiting for a transfer to come over and have to wait a year, I can go get this person right now and they can go.
Yes.
And if you do not fit this idea, so the idea, I would say, like, leveraging one's appeal in space to, one, I want to leave this space with what you promised me when you came on my visit in my mama's house, my daddy's house, and had a conversation with me and sitting in front of, and that person goes, you know what? Yo, I can get somebody else tomorrow. If you're not playing by our rules, you can go. And it's so crazy because I've sat down with a couple athletes and they have this conversation that, forget this idea of like jumping in a portal like for my own volition, that you have coaches now telling me, listen, I like you, but I want to be honest with you. You might want to consider another home.
Yes.
And this is why it becomes a very interesting landscape in terms of, I didn't even add the S word, the steroids. The idea, like, what does competition and talent actually mean in this space that we're in? Because if you're not part of the 1%, you just in a milieu of space where I can get rid of you at any time, which was different where you had I have a level of security. I'm like, you're going to have to deal with me for a portion of time, or as when I was a coach, or that person could technically say, well, you know what? I don't really like you, but I can make it difficult for you because I can reduce your scholarship to the lowest portion that I can.
For sure.
And I think that this is now a very unique space, not just because we're still talking about profit generating sports versus the larger conversation, what NIL provides opportunity for, but how we are still treated in this space, because the market appeal is now so far open. It's like, I don't really care that you're the top running back right now. I can go find you.
Yes.
And there's somebody else that is willing to stab you in your back to take what you have.
People perish for a lack of knowledge, brother. Oh. And so, to your point, we can do that. But how many of our young athletes, right? I'm not talking about those who are in college right now. Those are navigating the space, and they're getting, right, as Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right? And so I vibe with all of that, but what the work especially that we do, what you do at Athlete Alliance and all of the different joints is like, no. My new joint, right, students with athletic goals, but if they don't have this information here, then they're only going to repeat the cycle. So what do I mean by the cycle? You've done a great job, and I've seen it. And if y'all don't know this, you all should learn about the work that DJ does around his combines, right? Before that, now I'm starting to see trends, but before that, you were one of the few people I'd ever heard, it's specific to the East Coast, I would say at least. You know, I know I'd be fact checked with that maybe someone else has done it. That no. Like, when you come to this environment, I'm giving you data. Everything that you can control. How high, they're going to see how high you can jump, how fast you can run. They're going to measure to this, da-da-da-da. So now the young athlete is like, damn, I really want to. No. What's the metric? Google, Siri, ChatGPT. Who has the fastest 40? Yo, Keisha, I can't talk to you, Keisha, because now I have real metrics that they're going to replace me, because the fastest 40, and you may know this, I don't know, is what? What's considered a fast 40?
I think it's Xavier Worthy. I think he ran with 4.22 or
like a 4.22
flat. Yeah.
So Jamal, if you run a 4.56 and you're running back, I'm not saying that you're not gonna get a scholarship, but the 1% that now we're talking about, when you think that you are all high on your pedestal, or you let the environment put you on this high pedestal, I need you to know that coaches are saying like, yo, you're a decent talent, but I can pull up metrics of 25 more Jamals that run a 4.5, run a 4.4, that run a 4.3. So I'm going to need you to operate a little different. And a coach doesn't need to tell you that. So now parents, when our kids are like, yo, but I just want to go pum, pum, pum all day and I want to be on the video game, have fun and do your thing. But if you're not able to understand the true metrics, then to what you're saying is in a free market economy now, you might have left a New Haven, Connecticut or New Orleans, Louisiana or Southside Chicago, and they were like, yo, you are like this. But they never taught you that. No, but a free market economy means that more people can enter into the market. And now with the floodgates open, if you're not focused or you buying or drinking the sweetener or consuming the drugs, then you don't know that DJ right now runs a 4.3. And if he runs a 4.3 and you are on the south side over here or down south and you don't know that, then you're going to get lost in the conveyor belt, as we now see and counsel and consult with so many athletes. They're like, yo, but I wanted some of this money. But they didn't tell you to get the money and maintain the money. This is the data pieces that they're looking like. And is it the speed, the skill, the agility? Or is it the background of, oh my gosh, he's a good person. He does community service on the weekend. He's a Boy Scout.
My statement to them has been in the past year is I need you to turn your talent into a realistic, sustainable future.
I need you to say that again.
I need you to take your talent and turn it into a realistic, sustainable future.
Yes.
And that's I need you to think about how we train as something about creating a sustainable future.
Yep.
Create the avenues, operate in the angles, because really, and it's funny because I have some students that respond, NIL creates a space where there's no more love for the. Well, two things can be true at the same time.
It's not either or. So
you can actually have fun with the business if you understand your goals and objectives. So if I'm operating in a space and I understand how I'm using this, I can show up to practice without this larger level of pressure.
Yes.
Because I need you to operate and think about portion of what I'm doing every day is not just like we say, I'm just getting better. You go to the gym, I'm getting better. No. Better at what? Set these little micro workshops for yourself every workout so that it can move to the larger goal, which is a sustainable future in a career. Even though the NCAA ain't lies, like most individuals will find a job in something else, which one, I do agree with you. But you can still have both, where the question is, when you finish, that your larger livelihood and career output or personal esteem is connected to something else, instead of you showing up on this camera and going, yeah, football saved my life. I was like, yo, you're a liar.
You're a liar. You're a liar, but someone told you that. And that's the piece in the issue that as we continue to inspire and educate more athletes, because they all regurgitating the same thing. Regurgitating the same thing over and over, no matter where you go. Why is it, bro, that within a past 100 years, we can go back to Jack Johnson, we can go back through all of the historical, political movements, civil rights, so forth and so on. It's 2024. And we see kids, yo, you hear things like this that, yo, you know why you're not gonna make it to the NFL? Because you got a plan B.
That's that.
If you put all your
that Will Smith moment.
If you put everything into your plan, it's going to happen. This is why I used to love the concept of being a motivational speaker. I consider myself a motivational lecturer, because motivational speakers will say, oh my gosh, you got to be a beast. If DJ is waking up at 6, you got to wake up at 4:30, and I was Mr. 4:30, and you got to grind more, you got to get more reps in. But the motivational speaker then said, but like, yo, the average height in the NBA might be like 6'3", 6'4", you know, and so if you like 5'9", you got to be a hell of a 5'9". I'm not saying that you're not going to get 1,000 jump shots in, but like Earl Boykins and freaking Nate Robinson, you know, had like a 50-inch vertical. And you out here, you know, with a 24-inch vertical, and you can hit free throws, and that's good. But to make it to this level, but I didn't tell you that you need to be a true student of the game. And so you can watch film, you can practice, but you have to understand the industry and what you're getting into. But then more than just understanding the industry, you have to understand the industry within the industry. Why is it I show this image typically, you've probably seen me do this before, but I've showed this image of people at an NCAA tournament of all places, shameless plug, right? And it's two teams. The referee's about to throw the ball up, and I always ask athletes, yo, tell me what you see? And the crowd and the audience is filled. It's the Final Four. And I'm like, oh my gosh. They're like, yo, I see a center. I see a basketball. I freaking see, 8 black players, 2 white players. I'm like, yes, keep this energy going. Oh my gosh, I see 2 goals. I see the team. And I'm like, that's the socialization in 2024 that they continuously have us on. You don't see graphic design and artistry when you're not paying attention in a poor educational system. I mean, you graphically designing, you could be seeing a job that can keep you connected to the game, even if you're not playing the game. You don't see all of the statistician that's cranking out the data in the sports. But math is stupid. No, it's stupid when a teacher doesn't tell you that you love sports. Now let's unpack the stats from your game last week. Right? Oh my gosh. Well, what are those people? Well, yeah, that's cinematography and videography and cameras and all of those individuals. You like that? Referees, woo! I mean, they're not working for free. I mean, you in the NCAA, so you probably was playing for free. But the referees are not playing. They're not reffing for free, right? How much do they make? What's their career path? Oh my God, I see a lot of waters and hot dogs, and we talking about hospitality management right there. You know what I mean? So forth and so on. We're talking about sales and marketing. We're talking about commercialization that's happening all in front. Then what does the first row of people do that can afford these tickets that your people have to sit in the friends and family section and you only was given 5 tickets?
And it's funny because how we think about it, how we see the sport is technically how I approach my classroom.
For sure, yeah.
Because I'm thinking about that and I'm thinking about these opportunities. And when you're saying that, I'm also thinking about, one, I'm operating in classrooms that maybe have maybe 40%, maybe 30% that are actually athletes. So the rest of them will become, if they want to, practitioners within the sport management space. And then the things that you just described, it's about their ability to actually see that these opportunities actually exist and then be able to maximize these things and provide those visions.
For sure.
Because there are more people that we meet that think about the labor of the game and not the production and organization of the game.
For sure. Yeah.
And that's a piece that I fight with individuals because individuals are coming to the sport as celebrators of the laborers and not interested in actually like the facilitation, the project management, the data analysis, the game readiness, all these things, the aesthetics of the room, the atmosphere that needs to be created for these particular moments, because it's not just that, because an NBA game is very different than you going to the park and watching a group of professional folks run around on this concrete.
Absolutely.
And so actually setting the kids, I'm like, something's different happening here in this particular atmosphere. Because what I want is, I want the athlete to be able to see it in that particular way as an opportunity. Jaylen Brown, he doing everything.
But he's also being leveraged as a pawn to say that everyone is going to make $120 million or $400 million. Wow. And so now the glamour of it becomes, oh my gosh. Like, I really want to talk about the harm of what the NBA is actually doing on a macro level, even though I respect the business and globalization. They position themselves as the most commercialized sport because you can wear the shoes, the sneakers. They've embraced hip-hop culture and all of those different things, right? But when you see, oh, my gosh, DJ, he's getting $160 million over 4, when they already have the data and the analytics that, damn.
And 110 guaranteed.
110 guaranteed. And the lure of supermodels and all of these things, exotic cars, commercialization, entertainment. He can party with Lil this one and Lil that one. Woo! And I made it so easy on the smartphone that parents gave and blessed their kids with $1,000. And now I just say, hey, follow me. Follow my alerts. Whoa. Even though I know you can never be me because I grew up in a time where I really didn't have it, newer athletes now, what they call the Instagramification of sports is a real thing. But now it's well, damn, if I have 1 million people seeing me and I'm getting 110 million guaranteed, and I'm going to be on the Powerade and the Gatorade, and I'm going to be over here and I'm going to be over there. Now, shit, if I can just get 1 million black kids to give me $10, that's $10 million in sales. Let alone $100. That's let alone $1,000. Maybe if we put them on a consumeristic conveyor belt. Now, over the life of 10 years while they playing the sport, I need the sleeves, I need the shoes, I need the socks, I need the hypotherm, I need blah, 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 blah. Ooh, if I could get 1 million black kids to buy into this one candlestick, which, mindful, pre-2005, it was probably 80 to 90% of athletes being U.S. born. But now the globalization is what we saw with this previous NBA draft is, oh my gosh, it's not just Wemby. We getting everybody international. It's a global. So now the kids don't even know about the globalization of the game to say like, yo, in 60 NBA slots, we only probably getting 34, 35 black kids.
In the next 10 years, the NBA will change.
And it's going to change
what? The demographic will change.
Break that down really quick. What's the demographic going to be?
So the demographic will change.
I'm sorry. This is your joint. What's the demographic going to be?
No, you can ask me questions. Cool. You ready? Cool.
What is the demographic going to? Because this is important. And what is it going to do to us?
The game will change where it will become more of a European game. We will the 3-point line will stretch out. The game will become more passive. There will be more fouls. We will see a surge in points. So hopefully we don't hit 130s on a consistent basis, but we will see regular game seasons that will arrive at points that are like 120 because now it's a free-flowing game.
Now we're talking about the market. What markets as an NBA commissioner are you trying to move into as the game shifts?
So
what new markets do you want to go into, and where are those markets?
They're going to move into international markets. So what they're going to try to do is instead of potentially not just having a G League, you will have a Euro League or you will have a Euro G League. And so now you are trying to, identify new talent that will become on different platforms for your particular teams, maybe add a team or something like that. But the reality is that you want to create a larger global market and you want to brand basketball as this kind of international space and space of connection, not just for the athlete, but to broadcast within their networks.
Yes.
And the crazy thing about that is like you have spaces that do not have like, I don't know, they have like, what we got? We got 4K, 5K. They don't have particular, but you will move a system there to broadcast the thing of your interest.
Yes. Now, put a quick pin in that. Now, what started as a binary, we know what a binary is, 0 and 1, black and white. It started. We transformed, dominated, and made it everything. But what you're saying, now what does that have to do with still the 5 million that's going down the conveyor belt system? What opportunities will exist for them?
The door will close. The door will close because now the space is oversaturated with too much talent. So now you are taking other spaces, training them in particular ways, investing the money, and now you can select what you want. So this individual that kind of was normally propped up in this kind of like isolated space now has to compete with a large. So that's kind of what we consider. That's the market.
That's the market.
The market would say this is
why
natural.
aren't our kids right now? They're all at not Anytime Fitness. They're being trained in so many spaces and places. And I love the trainers because I do believe youth sports in its infancy typically was about dedication, consistency, right? Grit, resiliency, interacting with different people. All of those to the game is super important. But everything you just so articulately broke down, my brother, if our kids don't know that piece and they still saying like, yo, but you're going to be the one from New Haven. You're going to be the one from New Orleans. They're going to get to that carrot stick and they're like, yo, I'm playing AAU and Nike then created their own AAU circuit, EYBL. So why am I paying all this money for this tournament right here if EYBL is exclusive? Why Under Armour got their own thing? Shh. Damn, they the sponsors for the NBA.
The system,
and if you don't know
the system has changed so drastically, and I'm even saying
through the digitization to where now kids can't even digest information because they socialize to pictures, and the game is not being digitized in pictures; it's being commercialized.
Both. But I think about the expansion of so not just our profit generating sports as a whole. So for me as a father that has a boy and a girl, a 15-year-old and a 6-year-old, that the landscape of what opportunity looks like, and watching those who have their hands out that are taking opportunities and knowing for a fact that they are not connected to college programs, or they're not going to send anything to college programs, that you're using these exposure opportunities kind of on the heart and the whims of this facade that for us or parents that have understand the recruiting process, you being jug.
Yes.
This is a jug.
Yes.
And it happens across many spaces.
Somebody came into your house and told you wasn't being jug, you would have won.
It was like, yeah, man, you can keep going to these swimming camps and do it. And it's not just your trainer. It's like you're actually going to this exposure space and you can win amongst this competition, and nobody's going to call you.
Ever. You like 1,000 points in like D3AA. I don't even know if that exists, but someone is telling you that from the perspective with goals, which I think if it's okay to pivot, you know about this. Can you break down what is the youth sports industrial complex and how cities now are building their industry off of youth sports?
So I'll sit to that one on profit generating sports. So we're talking about football and basketball, and we see cities that have privatized their kind of like athletic programs, where they're using through park and recreation or something else, privately AAU, where coaches are now making 6-figure salaries that create opportunities where athletes get to travel, but this becomes this kind of bedrock. And so this becomes this kind of athletic engine or machine where individuals have to come through this particular camp or particular program to go and play at Nike site or play at this ABCD camp or go to 5-star or play at these multiple invitational opportunities. But the real reality is that most of those individuals on that team, especially if they're in the same regional area, will not be selected at the next particular level. But we see this monetization of them at a very youth level where branding deals come in, sneaker deals come in, and it's the hard reality that I do understand that kids are very impressionable.
Yes.
So and it's not just a poverty moment. It's the fact that you will show up, coach open the box, there's some new uniforms, there's some shoes, there's some cleats, there's some things that's here, there's some gloves, there's some things, there's some pictures I want to take, I want to get on the gram. And this is where you are. This. I know how to easily entice this particular group, and it's a simple model.
A very simple model that's very lucrative and very profitable.
And it travels from here to the West Coast, down south, across any space. That this is how you will get these individuals, while you take these other things away from them.
And so once again, in the free market economy, I don't knock the hustle. But as collectivists, specifically when it comes to our boys,
I got to knock the hustle though.
But when it comes to our community, our black boys, and this happens everywhere. Lacrosse, I mean, we've taught students at universities, right, that, man, we pay $20,000 a year for lacrosse or for travel baseball. So it hits every industry. But the unintended consequences that I think for us, it becomes, what is the real cost of potentially an illiterate generation? A generation to where I remember talking to some youth sports. I was like, listen, but they're 9 and 10 years old. Listen, give them 2 timeouts a game for themselves so they can just think like, yo, what are you seeing? Coach is like, no, they need to learn discipline. So now what we know in sports, not only is it being profitable, and you have a lot of kids that just want to be on the ride, and that's cool, because there's a lot of social cachet that comes with being associated with sports. We know this historically. But now you get to college from early on, like, damn, I was just ever told to be somewhere. I was ever told to play. Somebody gave me a schedule, and you never thought for yourself. And now you go into life, and the first time you might have to be questioned or think critically, you don't even know what that means. So the harm now that's being done and the fun And there's some families that's honest. Listen, I need a babysitter. I'm going to pay this money, and I just need somebody to watch my kid because my kid is a lot during the summer. And I get this. But there's a lot of people being sold fruit snacks, gummies, and freaking Doritos and Flamin' Hots, and they're not getting subsidized.
High fructose corn syrup.
High fructose corn syrup.
High fructose corn syrup.
And they're thinking that this is going to be a thing. And then what does that happen? Broken hearts. And then a bigger piece that we don't talk about ultimately is in our community, where sometimes then we begin to live vicariously through next generations.
Oh, let me get this. And I think that this needs to be said. Now, so now we both have strong sport interests.
For sure.
A portion of why I think there's this unfortunate duality around this infatuation with sports, but I also recognize that both as us administrators and educators, that literacy is out the door.
Out the door.
Not even for athletes. In general. It's like even see students that even have this like very comfortable posture of saying
92% of our kids don't read on grade level.
They have this comfortable posture. They go like, I'm just not good at math. I'm like, what? I'm like, this is as all things are. Skills. Whether it's a language, whether it's a craft, it's a particular skill that you have to.
And sports is one of the greatest vehicles to teach those skills, but it also has to be independence, accountability, and stick-to-itiveness. But you're right. We have our kids.
I hate the fact that there are more people that think they have an athletic skill, but besides their ability to understand arithmetic and read that book.
This is what I'm
saying. They will walk to the court and have this kind of like really in-depth dialogue about like, I've been here all day. I'm like, you need to go home.
No. You need to go home. Like home. Right? But this is the reality, right? And so that what you do most is that what you do best. In most cases. And
unfortunately, that's not true.
No. I mean, from a sports duality, but I'm just saying, what they say, what you do most, that kind of repetition is the mother of learning. And so to your point, because, bro, I'm at a crossroads. I have a son right now. No, for sure. Because you have information. Information changes situations, and you think about breaking intergenerational curses, right? And I know historically.
Oh, yeah.
Historically, I see amazing potential. He's 2. And he does some stuff right now. Oh, my gosh, he's the one. But that's the old mindset, right? But then I look at it, it's just like, all I have to do, which I plan to do, which I tell parents to do all the time, all you have to do, I don't care if they read LeBron James' autobiography, Steph Curry's autobiography, Cam Newton, I don't care who it is. You incentivize reading. You're going to expand their mind. You expand their mind, you're going to expand their curiosity. You expand their curiosity, that's going to increase access, opportunity. And that then can say, why am I why am I in 5th, 6th grade? Or I can look at another older adult and just, I ain't good at that. You study? I ain't study. You open up the book? I ain't do that. And I'm not blaming the kids because at the end of the day, they are just being reproduced in a system that we already know. But if we're talking about a freedom dream, damn, it could be so powerful of like, oh my gosh, now I'm building a true athlete alliance to where I can read, you can break down my contract. Well, what is a contract? Well, contracts are online. So how do I leverage online technology to be able to do that? Well, my gosh, I'm not good at math. Well, now we have artificial intelligence. You could ask artificial intelligence, hey, could you break this thing down to me as if I was a kindergarten student, but I'm really in the 6th grade? Boom, it can help families. You might have had a poor schooling experience, but now there's influence and there's other opportunity and technology.
I'm not even going to talk about how we use ChatGPT.
No, for sure. But it's not about that.
I'm talking about us.
Yes, no, for sure. No, we use it in such a robust way. But artificial intelligence has been around for decades in different iterations. And it's just exploded from a commercialization perspective. But it also is going to further expand people saying, I don't have to do nothing. And so now sports is one of the remaining last things that are truly live, entertainment and sports. So now the adolescent years, while the mind is growing and it's expanding, and with data points, we can go to the beginning of time, but even if we just go to Jack Johnson, to Hank Aaron, to everything that we know, the elements of sports, Pose Brown versus the Board of Education, post the civil rights movement that they don't teach us in school. CRT moment, we get it. They're trying to cancel everything, which they get it. But
shout out to Texas and Florida.
But now, though, to your point, you see them at the court. Oh my gosh, go home. No, for real, go home. Damn, they go into the school system. School system is a profitization mode to where students now can continue to be a part of the special education conveyor belt system.
So I think this becomes
a zero-sum game that our families need to be empowered on, to the point of you can do both, but you need to be like hell asking the question. I want my kid to play sports, but I need my kid to be versatile. And I don't want my kid to get lost into the system that they're telling me. And if this thing happens, great. But somebody lying to me about just keep everything in basket A, when in reality, they had basket A, B, C, D,
data
E, F.
shows us that student athletic or youth participation is at an all-time low.
Yes, and that's additionally because...
Even though we watch sports in kind of like a very glorified way, as if this is what everybody's doing, there are less kids because athletics has become more privatized and it has become unaffordable. Park and rec programs are not offering more programs. So actually there are less kids participating. And as a precursor, there are less programs to support these students in other extracurricular activities, Boys and Girls Club, whatever it may be. And so,
which is by design.
So when you brought up earlier and you talked about this point of the globalization of sport, because a portion of this is kind of part of this filler. So actually, in a U.S. concept, in how the industry actually operates, and I can choose any sport that does this, track and field is one of the spaces, that you will see, if you are part of the 1% or part of the 10%, you will see your same competition over the course of 10 years because you are the only ones that can afford this, or someone is investing in you. There are less people present to actually, so it's not that the competition went down, but it's becoming very selective, and people are becoming very selective in their sport. And then also the global appeal is like, you don't know what they're doing over there, but someone's kind of ingrading them in a particular way. In terms of like this like kind of invisible competition. But the reality is that when people think about youth sports and walk into like these facilities that are like in North Carolina, and they see these multiple baseball fields, like
soccer courts,
there's like 20 baseball fields that sit on 20 acres, and then you have these football fields at another space where it's like, yo, you got 20 football fields and you have multiple 7-on-7. Because you see this and you see this moment, it makes it almost seem as if this is what the average child does. But the reality is like, no, they don't.
No, they don't. And to your point about the diversification of it, which is a bigger thing. And so now if you you divest in that, you'll have the marginalized little bit. Some of them might get sponsored if you're nice, right? Which is not everyone. But then that means the lower tier that do not have the economics end up doing what? Hood rat things with their friends.
But actually, so from a business standpoint, it actually makes more sense. However the market is operating, it's easier for them to select and decide this pathway and track so earlier. So we see not just sponsorship. And we started this conversation with the exploitation of the NCAA and NIL opportunities, but we see it moving backwards, where we see individuals, because normally and I would tell students, when you are watching TV, you are watching the 1%. There are a million actors in the world. Yes, they're on Broadway and just wherever you are watching TV and as a 1% group of individuals that are at the space, but because the TV is on all day, it makes it seem like this is a really viable thing. And it's not, because you're only watching the 1% visibly in this space, and you read about them. Same with Jaylen Brown. We see $150 million over 110 guaranteed over 4 years. So it almost is like you don't have a real gauge of the larger landscape of what the smaller contracts could be as considerations. You kind of see this as like, this is like the kind of like this. It almost operates as the standard.
No, for sure.
It's like, but I'm like, no, it's not, because your aspiration is what you're viewing,
which means
not your knowledge.
Yes, and because of that, that's a bore. But a lot of us who have the knowledge, unlike us, and then once again, as we learn with a PhD, and to those who ever consider doing a PhD, the one thing a PhD teaches
have a good friend.
No, this is true. This is true. But that there's so many social experiments and things going on that no one has a monopoly on the truth, because the truth is subjective. It may be it might be some may say statistically significant, but it's always changing, and you realize, like, damn, people don't really know nothing. And we had an opportunity to really go do a deep dive in the wolves.
Shout out to Dr. Cooper.
Shout out to Dr. Joseph Cooper, one of the top scholars in America.
Bang, bang.
Bar none. We're just going to leave it right there. Dr. Joseph Cooper is one of the top scholars in America. And so in the world, I'm going to just leave it there. We're going to have to do a whole nother segment someday on just the influence and the impact on Dr. Joseph Cooper. But so many of us, I want to say, so because we don't have a monopoly on the truth, I want to say this and caution, because it's not hating. Everyone's just trying to feed their family. People have dope ideas. There are some people who have been harmed by the sport that want to do good by the sport. But there's so many OGs who are just not sharing that information, that a lot of kids are right now thinking, yo, I'm about to get this 110 guaranteed. And as the CBA and the television rights get bigger and bigger, it's going to be $400 million over 4 years, right? Like in our generation, bro, not even our generation, in this decade, we're probably going to see a $400 million, $500 million basketball contract. Just put that into mind. So now you got crumbling schools. You have all of those things, which they already know because there's data and there's money and dysfunction. But now I'm trying to teach a kid potentially, or I'm in a school and I don't feel love, but I see this thing dangling, and you want to talk to me about math? About something else?
Do you ever ask the question of where the money comes from?
That part right there. That's another step.
Because I feel like it almost seems endless. You ever ask the question like where it comes from?
I asked the question, brother. The question and the answer to that, brother, I'm not trying to end up in a black box, brother.
Right, these private equity. No,
firms. Man, but I mean, it's real, man. And everything specifically from a global construct, but also an American construct. We're talking about goods, merchandise. Everything is for sale, unfortunately. And that means black and brown kids, people's futures, potential. And it's not saying that, as the NCAA would always say, most are going to go in professional other than sports. It was a great slogan and tagline. But what they fail to realize is, if you didn't get academic cluster, if you got a freaking, collective of individuals on the same frequency.
That's crazy.
But there's so many people that knowing institutions for profit and gain, exploited top athletes, bro. But then the commercial was running, and so once again, now to the masses, the consumer, a lot of us can't afford the damn March Madness Final Four bowl game price.
I heard the Rose Bowl be like 10 racks, like 20, 15 racks, like to go to the game. I mean, I could be wrong, but I heard it's like somewhere around like
no, but it's crazy, right?
Like,
and to the average person, just like now the Super Bowl, you can't afford.
And then they buy like 5, 6 tickets. I'm like, who got that?
Right?
Sitting around.
And then you can't afford it. And then unintended consequences is now. Man, listen, any athlete out there who's been handling business, handle your business. I don't envy all of you all, but I definitely empathize with the fact that a lot of you all got fed crazy information and you gave your best, or what you thought was your best, to a system or to an institution that really exploited you, privatized you. And so I would hope that the game in which that you're passing to the next generation is not just on sports, not just on the love for the game and the passion for the game, but surrounding yourself with people like myself or like DJ or other individuals who are businessmen and businesswomen who can actually say the game. We know that most people will never truly benefit from NIL. Most people will never get to the professional level. But a lot of us and a lot of your athletes can have high quality lives, but it starts while they're on the youth sport continuum. And that definitely includes the influence that you have on them on a day-to-day basis. So run the hell out of them in practice. Talk that talk, but find 5 to 10 minutes to then question them. But what's your hopes? What's your goals? What's your dreams? What if this don't work? I'm not saying that it's not dope to win a 10-year-old national championship, but I would hope that a 10-year-old national championship won't be those 10-year-olds' life story.
We're gonna go, and as we're kind of closing up, I think that what we said earlier, turn the talent into a realistic reality that is sustainable. That it sounds simple, but it's still difficult. And just the idea of sustainability. But turn your talent into a realistic reality that potentially can be sustainable.
Yep.
Because part of what I'm going to bring him back because we're going to have this conversation because really there's a question about what is your cost? Because a large portion of what we're talking about, and I meant to say this earlier, that because we see not just sports in a kind of media framework, but we see the money and monetization of athletic talent, because if you ask a student, and I draw all the things back, it's about money and earning. It ain't even about no love of the game. And so really to get to the nuts and bolts, why folks can leave schools, move schools, like this is where we are.
Yes, and I would think it's worth noticing and mentioning, and people can feel out their way, and I know it has made a lot of coaches' job harder. But, it is what it is. You all are actually truly being paid to do this stuff. The academic life, and to those, and I think I might have been a little harsh with just a lot of hopefully informative on some of the academic stuff. I mean, the athletic stuff. But I always say this. I'm not against, even though it's still utterly ridiculous, right, that we're still socialized to sports and entertainment. But the bigger thing is that people just didn't have the information. And I feel like if people truly had the information, they would have made a better choice, hopefully, not always, but a better choice in the investment and the costs associated with that. And so to any of you all out here that's reclassifying your kids in sports, no. I honestly think that's
crazy.
No, it's crazy. But you all are operating and working into the system. And so if you believe like, my kid is 16, but they actually are able to.
They're 20 in high school?
They're 20 in high school. But regardless of where I'm going with that, which is crazy, but it's become a reality. But your life's, your shelf life to even pursue certain dreams, specifically for top sports, you have a window. The window of life, hopefully, is going to be more expansive and broader and self-fulfilling in so many different ways and rewarding. But to those of you, you have to understand the game and the system in which you're operating. And so not all coaches are a great fit. Not all coaches. And so you need to be able to, when you put your kid or kids on a team, literally say, hey, is this just like a free-for-all? Do you actually have a plan for my kid? Do you want me to self-promote my kids where I need to bring a camera to every game so I can have my own footage? But those things you need to be asking so you can at least put your kid in the right moment. If you play basketball, your kid is 6'8", and they are a post. Well, to get to the next level, it's a postless game. And so not saying that post moves are not rewarding, but your kid should probably know how to dribble because we see people 6'11", 7 feet who know how to dribble. And so I just want to put that out there because so many of us are operating and investing money, time, and energy into something, and it's little nuances like that could be the difference between your kid at least having an amazing experience or potentially you all, continuing the cycle of the savagery that happens in this.
I'm gonna give away a secret. So the secret is find a educator and mentor just as much as you want to find that great coach.
That great coach. Yep.
And they do not, and I would suggest that they are not the same person.
Yes.
Find you a great coach, a great mentor, and a great educator for your life, student athletes, and they're not the same person because you're able to kind of see the particular vantage points, but please do not, I would suggest, this is my opinion, don't make your coach, unless it's me, your mentor, your educator, and your coach.
No.
Unless it's me, don't do that. Like, find a mutual benefit space where you can create these different dynamics, and they are invested in you in a unique way where it can develop your multiple identities. Do not find one person that becomes this kind of convenient path that becomes your history teacher, who is your football coach,
that part right
who
there.
becomes your mentor. Don't do that.
Yep, for sure.
And because you to some degree, I would say from my experience and just seeing, and I can't say it with a degree of security, but as a frame of reference, it's helpful to separate these particular spaces so that you can fundamentally develop these essential identities along their own path, and it doesn't have to be something that has to be kind of merged in one space. And so, I really live by that.
And to anyone out there from academic exposure, I built a platform, www.imsoeducated.com. IMSOEDUCATED.com. It has almost every career exposure. It has over 500 professional career mock interviews, so your kid can actually practice. And it could serve as a tool and a resource along their journey to their athletic identity.
I'm not really the host.
My bad, you close us out.
So as we close out, I want to make sure that Dr. Mallery lets everybody know what he got going on.
My bad. You're right. I just know because you're my brother. I just know. I
ain't gonna leave it out.
No doubt. So once again, I'm around on social at DrMallery, Dr. Mallery. But my platform is www.imsoeducated.com. IMSOEDUCATED.com. Has career exposure, internship exposure. It has hundreds and hundreds of freaking mock interview joints, so kids can actually start building their confidence in lieu of, as they're continuing to search for their athletic identity. Leverage the sport. Don't let the sport leverage you. And just remember, and I'll let you end with the quote that you stated. That was such a bar. The one about sustainability. You remember it?
No, I remember. I love you doing that. Also, he is also available for guest speaking. And so a large portion of his catalog is going across this country and other spaces.
Thank you for
and
that, man.
Being an excellent motivator and guest speaker. And so part of my understanding of entrepreneurship and kind of watching him do his thing before the PhD, that he has had a large track record and catalog of different spaces that he's navigated, and the charisma is amazing, and he does it on the fly. And so I want to make sure that's also noted.
I appreciate that,
in terms of the work that he has done. And I've watched you work. When we went to Boston, I was like, yo, did you practice that?
Come on, bro. It's, I'm a humble person from the South, brother, but I would love to. I'm a collectivist by trade, so if I know it, you know it.
So as to the quote, take your talent and make it a realistic possibility. That's sustainable and scalable. And that becomes important. Take the talent and make it a realistic possibility that's sustainable and manageable. Because that's the vehicle in terms of how you navigate and using your talent so that your talent does not use you.
That part right there, brother.
And so we've had another great episode.
Appreciate you, my brother.
Dr. Mallery is in the building. Back, right? Absolutely, we're gonna run it back. We got to talk about like what's your cause.
Yeah.
So this is the Dr. DJ podcast. I'm your host, Dr. DJ, sponsored by LGBG, and we are here for another great episode, Dr. Mallery, and we are out.
Peace.